Have you ever wondered if true love can still be found in a world obsessed with money and status? Julian Stone, a Nigerian billionaire and the son of a powerful police commissioner, was asking himself the same question. Tired of women who only saw his bank account, not his heart, he decided to do something drastic. He shed his designer suits and luxury cars, trading them for a simple uniform and a small room. He became Julian, the humble gatekeeper at the high-end Riverside estate, on a secret mission to find a woman who would love him for who he was, not what he had. His new life was simple, and his meals were often just as plain. Every day, he'd visit a small food shop run by Auntie Rose, her entitled daughter Bianca, and her kind-hearted niece, Amara. Julian could only afford the most basic food, always without meat. But Amara noticed. Her heart ached for the quiet, polite Gateman. Without saying a word, moved by pure compassion, she began secretly adding pieces of meat to his plate, a small act of kindness that meant the world to him. She wasn't looking for thanks. She was just being herself, gentle and caring. Little did she know, this simple gesture would set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever. But kindness often breeds jealousy. Bianca, resentful of the attention Amara was showing the poor Gateman, saw her cousin's secret act of generosity. Filled with spite, she ran straight to her mother. The next day, as Julian waited at the estate gate, Auntie Rose stormed towards them. In front of everyone, she unleashed a torrent of insults, accusing Julian of being a lazy freeloader trying to trick her niece. Then, she raised her hand and slapped Amara hard across the face, the sound echoing in the stunned silence. The public humiliation was just the beginning. When they got home, Auntie Rose's husband, Uncle Ben, heard what had happened. His face twisted in rage. He dragged Amara into the living room and beat her mercilessly, his voice booming with threats. He forbade her from ever speaking to the worthless gatekeeper again. Amara was left bruised and heartbroken, trapped in a family that saw her kindness as a crime. Julian, watching from a distance, felt a fire of helplessness and anger ignite within him. He had found a pure heart, but now that heart was suffering because of him. Despite the ban and the danger, their connection was too strong to be broken. Julian and Amara began meeting in secret, their stolen moments filled with whispers and shared dreams. It was during one of these clandestine meetings that Julian, looking into her trusting eyes, confessed his love. He promised her the world, a future together, a marriage, as soon as he could get back on his feet financially. His words were a balm to her wounded spirit, but their reality was harsh. Julian confided in her that he was about to be evicted, unable to pay his rent. Amara's heart broke for him. Desperate to help the man she loved, she made a fateful decision. In the dead of night, she crept into her uncle's room and stole a bundle of cash. When she presented it to Julian, her eyes shining with hope, his reaction shocked her. He gently pushed the money away. "No, Amara," he said firmly. "Stealing is wrong, no matter the reason. You must return it." He valued his integrity more than his comfort, a lesson he hoped she'd understand. But it was too late. Uncle Ben discovered the theft, and his fury was terrible. He caught Amara and beat her with a rage she had never seen before. Through her sobs, he delivered his cruel verdict. In 3 days, she would be married off to Chief Emma, a wealthy but ancient man, old enough to be her grandfather. Her fate was sealed. When Julian heard the horrifying news that Amara was locked up and being forced into a marriage against her will, he knew his social experiment had gone too far. His quest for true love had put the one person who embodied it in grave danger. The time for pretending was over. The game had to end. He couldn't save her as Julian the Gateman. He needed to be Julian Stone, the billionaire. The next morning, the residents of the Riverside estate witnessed a scene straight out of a movie. A fleet of luxury cars, gleaming in the sun, pulled up to the gate. Out of the lead car stepped Julian, but not the Julian they knew. He was dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, exuding an aura of power and wealth they couldn't comprehend. He strode directly to Uncle Ben's house. Uncle Ben, seeing the poor Gateman on his property, immediately called the police to report a trespasser. But when the officers arrived, they didn't reach for their handcuffs. Instead, they stood at attention and saluted. "Sir, Mr. Stone, we're at your service." The color drained from Uncle Ben's face as the truth hit him like a physical blow. This was no Gateman. This was the police commissioner's son. With cold authority, Julian ordered Uncle Ben to cancel the wedding to Chief Emma immediately. "I will be back in 2 days," he declared, his voice leaving no room for argument, "with my family, to ask for Amara's hand in marriage." Julian returned home, ready to share his joyous news, but he was met with a wall of ice. His mother, Lady Isabella Stone, was appalled. "You want to marry who?" she scoffed. "A poor, uneducated orphan? A girl from the streets? Absolutely not. The Stones do not mix with such people." Her world was one of status and pedigree, and Amara had neither. But Julian's father, Chief Richard Stone, saw things differently. He looked at his son and saw himself years ago. "Isabella," he said gently, "have you forgotten that when I married you, you had nothing? Love is what matters." He gave Julian his blessing, telling him to follow his heart, even without his mother's approval. 2 days later, Julian and his father returned to Uncle Ben's house, ready to formalize the engagement. But they were met not with celebration, but with grim faces. Uncle Ben, his eyes filled with false sorrow, delivered a devastating blow. "Amara is gone," he announced. "She fell ill suddenly. We buried her yesterday." Julian's world shattered. It couldn't be true. His heart, his instincts, everything screamed that this was a lie. He immediately contacted his father's police force and demanded a full investigation. The truth they uncovered was darker than anything he could have imagined. There was no sudden illness, no burial. Uncle Ben and Auntie Rose, consumed by a venomous jealousy that Amara would marry into such wealth, had faked her death. They had hired kidnappers to kill her and dispose of her body. The investigation dug deeper, unearthing a decades-old secret. They had also murdered Amara's parents to steal their inheritance, raising Amara as an orphan in her own home. The police raced against time, following the trail to a desolate, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. There, bound and terrified but alive, they found Amara. At the very same moment, another police team swarmed the bus terminal, intercepting Uncle Ben and Auntie Rose as they tried to flee. Their escape was thwarted, and their wicked deeds were brought into the light. Justice was swift. They were sentenced to 20 long years in prison for a lifetime of cruelty, greed, and murder. When Lady Isabella learned the full, horrific story, the cruelty Amara had endured and the purity of her heart, her pride crumbled. Tears streamed down her face as she pulled Amara into a tight embrace, apologizing for her prejudice and welcoming her as the daughter she never had. In an incredible display of grace, Amara also found it in her heart to forgive her cousin Bianca, choosing to break the cycle of hate. Finally, free from the shadows of their past, Julian and Amara stood before their family and friends and exchanged their wedding vows. Their story became a legend, a powerful reminder that true love isn't about what you have, but who you are. It's a love that sees past disguises, endures trials, and ultimately conquers all. Their journey proved that the greatest wealth one can ever find is a heart full of love. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you next time.